Ladies and gentlemen, there is a mole in the CIA. Essentially, that is the story that we have behind Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And there's several different parts to it, but what they are leading us to believe is that the person who is the mole and behind all of this is none other than Russel Adler. And that is what we are going to be looking at in this video, whether or not Russel Adler is actually the mole. But there's a lot more to this and a lot more information that I think I can give you. Not only are we going to look at whether or not Adler is the mole, we're also going to look at the first mission within Call of Duty Black Ops 6. No, you did not hear me wrong. This is not something that they have showed us any gameplay of or anything like that. But I believe based off of the teasers and evidence that they have given us, I can tell you pretty much exactly what happens in that first mission. So that is what we're going to be talking about later on in the video. But first, we need to discuss whether or not Adler is actually the mole. And I think the easiest way to do this is to break it down into 3 different segments, starting with the first one, the history of Russel Adler. So a lot of people assume that Russel Adler's story begins in Cold War, in other words, the year 1981. But you may be wondering, what was he doing before then? Well, as it turns out, he was in the CIA. In fact, he's one of the oldest operators that we currently have within the Black Ops franchise. Now, you may be wondering, how is that possible? He was around in the 60s in the CIA, he just wasn't portrayed in Call of Duty Black Ops 1. But what we do know is after the CIA raided Rebirth Island and found out about the Nova 6 gas, Russel Adler was the one to detain and take in Stitch and interrogate him about the production of Nova 6 gas. So that was back in the 60s. Fast forward to 1981, he is leading a group of soldiers, and those are the group of soldiers that we see in Black Ops Cold War. Now in this game, we are hunting down a mysterious agent who is also believed to be a mole in the CIA by the name of Perseus. Now, as far as Perseus goes and why Russel Adler was a specialist on this, we don't actually know, but it could have to do with him interrogating Stitch all the way back in the day. But in this game, he leads a group of soldiers, including Frank Woods, Alex Mason, this new mystery soldier named Bell, who we're going to come back to, and then some of his colleagues who include Lawrence Sims, Helen Park, and Lazar. So as I mentioned, Bell was an operator who they found on an airstrip in a very early on mission. Russel Adler then makes the decision to use MK Ultra to brainwash this operator because he believed that Bell was working for Perseus and they could use his memories to find out where Perseus was. And that is indeed what actually ended up happening. After we see several different brainwashing sequences, they are able to pull out the memories of Bell and use them against Perseus. So because of this, their team ends up saving the day, stopping Perseus, and by the very end of the game, it appears as though Russel Adler also puts an end to our character, aka Bell.
It was always for the greater good. You're a goddamn hero, you know that, kid. Heroes have to make sacrifices. That's why when I ask you for one more, I hope you understand. It was never personal.
So after this, we now have to fast forward to the year 1984. At this time, they go into a mall where they find none other than Stitch. Once again, Russel Adler's rival. And when they go in here, they end up getting captured and Russel Adler is taken by Stitch. At this point, Adler is brainwashed by Stitch, that number sequence that we saw with Alex Mason in Black Ops 1 coming to mind. And throughout the story of Verdansk 84, that is what we see happening to Stitch. Eventually though, our good guys, Frank Woods, Alex Mason, and Hudson, take back Adler and use some brainwashing on him. Now what's weird about this, and I didn't pick up on this on the first time I played through these kind of stories, is that it wasn't as though they were just deprogramming Russel Adler. It appears as though they actually re-brainwashed him the same way Russel Adler did to Bell, with the words, "We've got a job to do."
Oh God, what have I done?
Shake it off. It wasn't you. We're gonna finish what you started.
We've got a job to do.
We've got a job to do. Remember, we had a job to do.
Told you we had a job to do.
CIA's mind control program has had a great deal of success with implanting memories.
We got a job to do.
Now we will come back to that, but the weird part about the history of Russel Adler is from the year 1984 to the year 1991. Even though Black Ops 2 took place from the years 86 to 89, we never saw Russel Adler again. That is until Call of Duty Black Ops 6 or the year 1991. So now we have to look at what we know for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So for this part, it begins in Black Ops 2 in 1986 when we capture Lev Kravchenko. He is working for Raul Menendez and he has this to say.
He's more powerful than you know. He even has people in the CIA.
Bullshit! This guy's fucking with us.
So after this, when the crew goes into the Panama City invasion, they are once again affected by the Mole. The Mole allows David Mason to get captured and be used as leverage for Frank Woods to shoot his best friend, Alex Mason. The entire setup of the Panama invasion is done by that Mole. And it's weird that at this point, Russel Adler is nowhere to be found. He is not in the picture whatsoever. That would be into the year 1991. And this brings us to the next point of the video as to what happens next. So what we know of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is, number one, there is a mole in the CIA. With the Warzone event, he is being hunted by someone by the name of Daniel Livingstone, who appears to be the director of the CIA. And we also know that Frank Woods is looking for the mole as well, which makes sense if his best friend's death is due to this mole. However, the people who have gone rogue are Frank Woods and Russel Adler. So in other words, both of them are being hunted by Livingstone. Now, during the direct for Black Ops 6, we find out that on the very first mission of Black Ops 6, Frank Woods and his new crew, like Troy Marshall and everyone that's been introduced in Black Ops 6, are on a mission within Iraq when they've run into Russel Adler, an operator in the CIA who has been missing for months. Adler warns them about Pantheon, a group of bad guys we do not know much about, and says that the CIA is hunting him down and blaming him for something. This is where I come in. Now, if we go back to the final piece of intel, aka the evidence board from the Truth Lies Warzone event, we find a date of January 23rd, 1991. And after doing some research, this happens to be the date of something that went on between Iraq and Kuwait at that date, which is the world's largest oil spill, aka the Gulf oil spill. And essentially what was going on here is the Iraqis were taking the Kuwait's oil and dumping it into the Persian Gulf, making it more difficult for the US to come in, invade, and help Kuwait. And when I say world's largest oil spill, they were dumping 80 to 90,000 tons of oil into the Persian Gulf per day to do this. Now, more importantly, this was one of the events that the US used to make people know how evil and demonize Saddam Hussein. And this is what we see within the trailer for Black Ops 6. So I believe that this is going to be the very first mission of the game, and I believe it's the mission where you kind of see these fires burning, helicopters coming in, and then Russel Adler put his glasses on. This is where we are going to be reintroduced to Russel Adler, and the CIA is going to be hunting him, potentially blaming him for a part in this oil spill. So the question from here is Russel Adler actually evil? Should he be hunted by the CIA? And specifically, is he the mole? Well, I think it's simple. I think it comes down to one thing and one thing alone. Based off of the character of Russel Adler with zero brainwashing whatsoever, he wants the best for the world, which kind of eliminates him from that. However, what we did see is the latest thing from Russel Adler is that he was re-brainwashed from Stitch's brainwashing to be brainwashed by the CIA. Which means, if anything, he is by far out of any of the operators the most controlled, and maybe they are mad at him for breaking some of that brainwashing and being able to think and do actions for himself. So in other words, no, I don't think Russel Adler is the CIA. In fact, I think there's much more evidence that one other person is the mole, someone that you definitely definitely do not expect. And if you would like to see me do my opinion on who I think the mole is, show me by hitting that like button. Let's say if this video gets 7,000 likes, I will do that video breaking down who I actually believe the mole is. And of course, if you just enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button too. But no, I don't think Adler is the mole. I think it's someone else. But for now, that's all we got. So if you like what you see here, want to stay up to date on everything Call of Duty, make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, peace.
We are